So we have seen some general commands, the basic commands. What is ls, right? What ls command will do? It would show you the content in your current working directory, or if you want to see the content of a different folder, you can type ls space folder name. It would show you the content inside that particular folder. And then we have the command pwd. What pwd would show? It would show you your current working folder, which folder you are in right now. You can see by running the command pwd. Mkdir is another command. You can use the command for creating a folder. Mkdir space folder name. If you run it, it would create you a folder. And by default, if you don't specify the exact path to the folder, it would be created inside your current working folder, your pwd. Whatever your pwd is, in that particular folder, the folder will be created. Touch command is what you would use to create a file, right? Touch space file name would actually create a new file. And Manoj, can you mute yourself? Could you just mute yourself? I hear some noises. And yeah, and the command cd is used for changing your current working folder. Right now you are in some folder, cd space put another folder name, you would be taken to that folder, right? Basically the command would change your current working directory. Then man is one command that you would use for finding the information about other linux commands. Basically every linux commands has a manual page, so for opening that manual page you can use the man command. Man space the command name, man space ls, for example, will show you the information about ls command, what ls command will do, right? What are the different options you can use along with ls command. All these things would show up if you run man space ls command. And you have different editors in linux. These are nothing but the command line editors. If you want to edit any text file, you can use one of them. The editor name, for example vi space the file name, will open the file in a vi editor. Then you can press the I button to start editing the file. Once you are done with editing, press escape button, and colon w is the command to write into the file. Q is the command to close the vi editor. So if you run wq together, basically what happens is the file will be saved and the editor will be closed. That's what these that's just the vi editor. There are other editors also like nano or pico. These are nothing but just like the notepad editors in windows. You can open the file, you can you don't need it, there is no any insert mode. Whenever you open the file, you can start typing down. The keyboard will ask like it is a notepad. You can make the changes whatever you want. When you are done with it, you can press Ctrl X. It will ask you, do you want to save the changes? Give yes. Then it would save whatever change you have done. So probably, I mean, eventually you will make one of them as your favorite editor, right? You can uh, use whichever one you are comfortable with. And cat is one linux command which you will use to see the content inside a file. Cat space file name would actually show you the content inside the file. It would be printed onto your terminal. And yeah, there are a few other commands that we are yet to cover. Cp and mv. Basically cp is a command that we use for copying a file to a different location. Copy paste, think about the copy paste in windows. You right click on a file, select copy, go to a destination folder, then right click and select paste. That way you are actually making a duplicate of your file into the destination folder. So you can do the same thing in linux by using this particular command cp. The syntax is going to be cp space source space destination, which I will show you. So I'm going to log into my AWS account. My voice is clear, right? Do you find any problem with my voice or with my screen? Let me know. if you find any
No, no,
problems.
Bachchan, it's clear.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I'll go ahead and yeah, switch myself to the Mumbai region. They have got some new region in China. AWS recently launched some new region, I think somewhere. I don't know which one it is. Yeah, whatever. So I'm going to click on EC2. Click on instances. I already have a machine. The machine is in stop state. So I did not discuss about these things actually, which I will talk about. Right. Basically, I don't know if I told you. I told you that you can create a T2 micro machine which is free for 1 year. If you create one T2 micro machine, it is free for 1 year, but you cannot create a second T2 micro machine that is not free. And actually, it's not the count of EC2 machine which AWS will calculate for hours. It's the number of hours that you are running your machine. Every month you get 750 hours of use of T2 micro machines under your free tier, right? Once you created your AWS account, you would get a free tier which is 1 year. The free tier terms is something like you can create one EC2 machine, one or many EC2 machine, but the total hours that you use is 750 hours. So 750 hours is nothing but 1 month, right? 750 hours is nothing but it's 1 month only. So if you are creating one T2 micro, then you are running that T2 micro forever throughout the month, 24 hours per day. If you are running that machine, it would be already 750 hours. Then you cannot, there is, you are done with the free tier. The next month you will get another 750 hours and you can create one machine and run it throughout the month. That's how the free tier times work in AWS. But one thing that you can do is, you don't, whenever you are not using the machine, you can keep the machine in a stop state. You can right click on the machine anytime, select the instant state, select the option stop. What happens is the machine will be stopped. While the machine is in stop state, AWS will not count your hours. So think about this. Today, our class starts at 8 p.m. Then you started your EC2 machine. Then you are going to work on your EC2 machine. Maybe you need to use it for 3 hours. We are done with the class in 1.5 hours. You need your assignment to be done in next 1.5 hours. So you are done with your EC2 machine in 3 hours. Then you can again right click on the machine. Then you can stop the machine. Stop it. So whenever you are not using the machine, you have the flexibility to choose the machine in a stopped state. If you did that, AWS will not count your hours. So today you used it only for 3 hours instead of 24 hours. You still have a lot of hours pending. So like this, every day you are using only 3 or 4 hours, right? And assume you are using only 4 hours every day. By the end of the month, it would be, how much it would be? 4 into 30, right? It's going to be 120 hours. So basically, out of 750 hours, you had used only 120 hours. You still have a lot of hours free, which means you can create more T2 micro machines and use them. It's free, right? But thing is that the total hours of use of your T2 micro machine should not exceed 750 hours. If it exceed, then you are going to be charged. You got it, right? So maybe in short, I would say, if you create a T2 micro machine, run it forever, it's going to be only one machine you can create. If you are using 24 hours every day, you can create only one machine. You cannot create a second machine. If you create a second machine, they will charge you for the extra hours. But if you create two machines and you are running two machines only 12 hours per day, then still you will not be charged because it's going to be still 750 hours because you are using only 12 hours every day. So if you create three machines and you are using 8 hours, each machines you are using 8 hours, still it's only 750. So if you use the free tier smart, AWS let you create multiple machines, but only thing is that don't exceed 750. If it exceeds 750, you need to pay for the extra hours. Let's say you are using 760, then you need to pay for the extra 10 hours, which is actually very cheap. I think for T2 micro, it's going to be 0.02 a dollar per hour or something, but still you need to pay. For extra 10 hours, you need to pay. So this is how AWS billing work. And this is the case with EC2. There are other services also, which I will talk about when we learn AWS. Right now, we are only thing I want you to create is a EC2 machine and nothing else, right? So like I said, anytime I can stop the machine or I can start the machine. So right click on the machine, select the start option, instant state and start. That will start the machine. So once the machine is started, AWS will start counting the hours. So this is what I do. I can hear. Okay. Manoj, I cannot hear you. Hi, others, can you hear me? Manoj says he's not able to hear me.
Yeah, I
Can,
can
For
hear
me,
you.
for me it's clear. But
okay, let me send him a message. So basically, you need to keep this a note on the 750 hours because when we learn DevOps, right, when we learn some tools like Chef or Jenkins, at that time, you might come across some situation where you need to run multiple machines instead of single machines. We are learning about some infrastructure, deployment, delivery process that would really need multiple machine running together. But still, what you can do is you can create only T2 micro machine and stop them whenever you are not using them so that you will not be charged. All right. So I started my Linux machine. This is the Ubuntu server which I have created yesterday, if you remember. So I'm going to log into this machine. Like I said, in your case, you would use a putty in Windows to connect to this Linux machine. In my case, it's actually I'm using a Mac, and there is a terminal application in Mac. From there, I can run this SSH command, which will log me into the remote machine. So I am logged into the remote machine. Who am I? I logged in as Ubuntu. I want to become the root user. Run this command sudo su-root to become the root user. Like I said, root is the privileged user in Linux. He can do anything on your Linux system. Actually, Namrata and you guys need to create an AWS account. Uh, just give me 1 second. I will switch to my home Wi-Fi. Okay. Yeah. So I'm logged in. I'm logged into the Ubuntu server that I have in AWS. Yeah, let us. Okay, so the remaining command that we need to learn are cp, mv commands. Cp is nothing but the copy paste. You want to copy a file from one location to another. You can use cp command. So I'm using my cp command. Let's say type ls command. I have a number of files. Let me go to a different folder /home. Type ls. I have a number of files. So my intention is I have this file test2.txt. I want to copy this file to a different folder. Let's say /etc. Right? I have different folders inside slash, right? One folder is home, another folder is etc. Inside etc there is another folder called apt. So inside home I have a file called test2.txt. So what I want to do is I want to copy this file into this apt folder. The syntax of cp command is cp space source space destination. This is the syntax of, sorry, it's not cd, it is cp for copy. Source is nothing but the file that you want to copy. Destination is nothing but the folder where you want to copy it. So can you tell me, can you ping me in the chat the command you would use to copy the file test2.txt, which is inside slash home, into slash etc slash apt. So just ping me in the chat what command you would use. Cp command, send me your cp command that you would use to copy a file which is inside home folder into this apt folder. I want the answer from everyone. And Manoj, Namrata, and Musamil, you guys need to create one AWS account. Manoj, you have an AWS account?
No, I don't have. Can you
What?
share me the link?
I will send you one link. Watch that video. Actually, it was day before yesterday's the first class I discussed about creating the AWS account. So you need one AWS account. You need to create a Linux machine. It is on that Linux machine we are going to do your labs. So I will send, not me actually, Santosh would send you a video. Namrata, to you also, and Musamil, Raj will send you the video. Watch that video, create yourself an account in AWS and create a Linux machine. Okay, and meantime send me your answer to the cp command. What cp command you would use to copy the file from home to, I just want to make sure that you got it. Waiting
From
for
home
your
to
answer.
which one we need to do? Oh, it is.
I want to copy this test2.txt file, which is inside home folder, into apt folder. So the syntax is like this: cp, the file that I want to copy, then the destination folder where I want to copy it. Namrata, Musamil, Pranita, can you guys send me your answer? Faisal? Okay, perfect. So the command will be cp. Either we can run like this: cp space test2.txt. Because I am already inside slash home, then I can refer to test2 file just like this: cp space test2.txt space the destination folder. What is the destination folder? It is etc folder inside, apt folder inside etc. etc itself is inside slash. So the exact folder location will be starting from the slash etc slash apt. This is the command I need to run to copy this file into the apt folder. So run this command, it gets copied. Okay. And what command you would use to verify that the file created inside this folder? I mean,
Less.
how I can verify if test2.txt
So
is copied? Yeah,
cd space slash etc.
right, cd space slash etc slash apt. Then I can type a ls command, right? Or I can directly run the ls command from here also. If I go to cd uh, slash etc apt, then type ls, I can see test2.txt. Or if I wanted, I can directly type the ls command, ls space slash etc slash apt slash test2.txt. I can run directly from here also. That will also work, which will show me if the file exists, it would show me the file. If the file does not exist, I will get an error, file not found. Yeah, or I can type directly ls slash etc slash apt. It would show me all files, right? So yeah, so there are different ways to run the cp command, right? I can also run like cp slash form slash test2.txt. I can specify the absolute path to this file also, which is also correct, right? This is the right command if you are inside a different folder. But since you are inside slash home, you could actually, you could have run this also, but yeah, both will work. Got it. So what cp command will do, it will make a duplicate, right? When you do the copy paste in Windows, what it will do, it will create a duplicate file. A test2.txt will be created inside this folder. So there will be total 2 files. One is the original file, other is the copy. There will be 2 files, duplicate file. That's what cp command will do. mv command has the same syntax, mv space source space destination. That is the syntax for mv command. So now let's say my intention is I have this test2.txt file which is inside etc apt. I want to copy this file to a folder slash mnt. Actually, I don't want to copy this file. I want to move this file, basically relocate this file from source folder to destination folder. So I want to move this file or relocate the file. Relocate means the source file will not be there anymore. After I executed the mv command, you will not find the file, the original file will not be there. It will be relocated to the destination. So ping me your mv command. What you would use, mv space whichever file that you want to copy. I want to copy the file etc apt test2.txt. This is the file which I want to relocate to which folder, slash mnt. So this is the command you can use, the same as cp. Only thing is that after you run this command, if you type ls inside etc apt, the test2.txt is not there anymore. The file is gone. It is like cut paste in Windows, right? It does not make any duplicate.
But Basil,
Mhm.
already we are in slash etc slash apt folder, right?
apt, I could
So
simply run, yeah, that is also correct. You can simply run like this, mv test2.txt space slash mnt. This will also work because I was already inside etc apt folder.
so slash mnt is the main folder in Linux.
That's one folder which is inside slash.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't discussed about the significance of different folders in Linux. Maybe, yeah, it's good. I will tell you. Maybe not so important that you know all these folder what they does. Right? Typically, if you go to your slash folder, that means the top folder, and type ls, you will see a number of folders over there. There is a bin folder. It is your Linux commands are located inside this folder. Some of your Linux commands, not maybe all of them, some of your Linux commands are located inside this bin folder. Then there is another, some sbin or something. No, okay, it's not here. Right. And there is a dev folder.
SBIN is there.
Oh, SBIN is there, right? Yeah, some of your, yeah, there is a SBIN also. And this folder also contains some of your Linux commands. And there is a command called dev. The command will contain some device files. If you connect a pen drive to your Linux box, or if you connect a hard disk to your Linux box, or any hardware device that you connect, for indicating those devices, there are special types of files in Linux. Those files are saved inside dev folder. And there is a folder called home. This folder is generally used for saving the home folder of user. Whenever you create a user in your Linux machine, Ubuntu is a user, right? Ubuntu is a user in your EC2 Linux machine. Root is another user, a super user. And then you can create extra usages like, right? You can create usages like Lilith, Deba, right? You can create number of usages. And every user in Linux will have access to one folder, which is their home folder. That means on a particular folder, they will have full privilege on. So typically, I mean, it's not, none of these are actually mandatory things. You can actually put the files anywhere you want. There is nothing you should place the home folder of usage inside slash home. There is nothing like all the Linux commands should be placed in bin. There is nothing like that. It's not a rule, but generally, in general cases, you will find these. This is what these folders are actually being used for. And lib64 and lib are some folders that contains a number of libraries which your Linux system want to use. Libraries are nothing but some executables that give your system be able to do more, that make your system be able to do something more than what it can do. For example, yeah, let's forget it. It could be a little complex. Media, these are nothing. I mean, if you connect a CD drive, automatically your CD drive will come inside this media folder. Media, or I think even pen drive also, I'm not sure. If you connect a pen drive by default, the pen drive will come inside the media folder. So like that, root is the home folder of the root user. By default, there would be a folder in called root, which is inside slash, right? So there is a folder called root inside slash. This is the home folder of root user in Linux. Root user also a user, right? He also need a home folder, and his home folder is slash root. That is not inside home folder. It is directly inside slash. Make a note. This is the home folder of root user. In every Linux flavors, it will apply. And like that, there are different folders. Var has different purpose, right? Boot is typically used by your Linux kernel, some system process, some process that are running. The information or the kernel is the one that manages this process. So about the process will have the process IDs. There can be different, I don't know how would I explain it. You know what is a process, right? In Windows, if you open Google Chrome browser and if you go to the task manager and click on process, you can see there is one process running there, which is nothing but that is the process which drives your google.com. If you kill that process, your google.com browser will get killed. You would see, so whatever you run in your Windows PC is running as a process, and you can see the list of process in the task manager of Windows. In Linux also there are some command that would show you all running process in your Linux machine. So this boot folder contains the information about those process, right? And etc is a folder typically used for saving the configurations, right? You are installing some software in your Linux machine, you want to modify some configurations of that software. For example, you install, maybe you install Google Chrome, then you want to modify some cache settings, right? Probably you want to enable some Java cookies in your Google Chrome. Typically, those kind of configuration modification of any software which you would run on Linux are inside etc folder. Typically, again, I'm telling you, this is not something, a rule or anything. Generally, this is what these folders are being used for. MNT is a folder. Probably it contains nothing. It's just a folder. Probably sometimes when you are connecting a pen drive, you can choose your pen drive to be mounted on this particular folder MNT. Right? It's up to you. Again, up to you which folder you want to mount your pen drive in. So like that, different folder has different purpose. But again, it's not something you really need to worry too much. There is no such rules. All right, so that's how these are the folders, the main folders which you will find inside slash, right? Okay, I was wrong about the boot folder. Actually, it's the proc folder that would save information about the process, not the boot folder. Sorry. Yeah, boot folder is used for whenever your Linux system, when you start the machine, when you power on your Linux machine, what settings will be loaded during the boot time is what contained inside boot folder. Proc is the folder that contains the process information. I just got confused, sorry. So like that, right? And there are different folders which you will see under slash, and generally this is what these folders will contain. Okay, so yeah. So we will go back to our command. Any command left? Rm is one command which you would use for deleting a file. Let me, my session got disconnected. I'm opening another terminal in my MacBook. I'm going to run the same SSH command. If you are using a MacBook, this is the command you need to use if you want to log into the remote Linux machine, the Linux machine which you have created inside AWS. If you are using Windows, Manoj, probably, I think you already know how to use Putty.
Yeah.
Musamil and Namrata, what you need to do is you, if you are using Windows, and I hope you are using Windows. If so, there are some software called Putty. So the video which I am going to send you contain that information.
Okay.
How you can log in and stuff. Okay. All right. So what? Yeah, one last command that we need to discuss. rm is the command you can use. Let's say right now I am inside slash root. What is this folder? Root folder inside slash. Under slash there's a folder called root. So I haven't discussed about this folder yet because it would give you confusion. By default, when you log in as the user root, automatically you will be taken to this folder. So run the command pwd after you log in as root. You can see you are actually inside a folder called slash root. So sometimes people will get confused if slash root is equal to slash. It's not. Slash root is nothing but a folder inside slash, which is the home folder of the root user. Okay, so right now I am inside the folder slash root. Type ls. I can see there are few files. For deleting a file, I can use this command rm space file.txt. It will delete the file from the folder. Or if you want to delete a folder, let's say I'm creating a new folder called F1. I want to delete a folder, I cannot use rm, I should put a -r switch, -r space f1. Basically I am telling, do a recursive deletion, delete this folder and whatever content inside this folder, delete everything. That's what I indicate by -r switch along with the rm command, rm space -r space whichever folder that you want to delete recursively. The folder is gone. So these are some basic commands which you would use, and I hope you already started learning those 50 commands which I asked you to. Okay, right. These are the general commands which are very important, and I also asked you to Namrata and Musamil, you need to start with some Linux commands, commonly used commands in Linux, right? Watch yesterday's video also where we discussed these basic commands, and go to this link, thegreekstuff.com. They have listed down some 50 basic commands. You need to learn all these commands. Just execute all these commands in your Linux computer once you created one in AWS. So I'm sending that in the chat. Bookmark this link. Yesterday I talked about this link. So watch yesterday's video also. Right? Okay. Right. Lakshmi, you don't have class today. Lakshmi, there is no class today. Next class is on Monday for you. Okay, guys, so we will continue. So go through this link and finish this over this weekend. That 50 commands. Finish those commands over the weekend. So next thing, we will move on to some user management topic. How to add a user. Right? What is a user in Linux? What is a group in Linux? Those things. We will take a look after a short break. Now take a short break of 5 minutes. Right? And we will continue in 5 minutes. And after the break we will discuss about the usage and some permissions, and then we will wind up today's training, and tomorrow we will continue with some Linux administration. Tomorrow we are starting with some advanced topic, Linux administration, like installing softwares in Linux, some web server softwares in Linux. We are going to talk about some software administration on Linux. But yeah, for now take a short break of 5 minutes and be right back in 5 minutes. We will continue with user topics. So you know what is a user, right? A user is nothing but the one who do some operation in your computer, right? In Windows also you have user. When you want to log into your laptop, you log in as a user, then you want to make changes in as the user, right? You want to install any software, you want to browse any website, you want to do any action, right? Any action that you want to do in your operating system, you do those action as a user. any command that you are executing, you execute those command as a user. So that is what a user in Linux is, right? So in every Linux machine, you want to first log in as a user, then you want to do your job, the commands or whatever that you want to do, then you can do. So we will see how you can create a user in Linux, how to create a user in Linux, then how you can create groups. Sometimes right, sometimes you want to create group and add a number of people to a single group. Sometimes you would come across some situation. Okay, first, different user will have different permission, right? Probably the root user can execute the critical commands like mounting hard disk into a particular folder, creating additional usage. All these things the root user can perform, but a normal user cannot do that kind of action. So depending on the user, the permission would be different. The root user will have all permission. The normal Ubuntu user will have normal permission. Then there can be user who has different set of permission, and you can customize these permission. For example, you can decide if this particular file who can edit, this particular file who can read it, who can execute it, right? Or a particular command who can run that particular command. So all these things you can decide, and you can basically customize what permission a user have got. So we are going to talk about permission a little later after we are done with the user topics. But right now, you know that there are different types of permission in Linux. Permission to read a file, permission to write to a file, permission to execute a file, permission to run a command. There are different types of permission in Linux. You can give this permission either to a user or you can give it to a group. There can be some situations like you want a set of people to have access to a set of permission. In that case, what you can actually do is create a single group, probably a group you create like developers, and all my developers people, I would create a user for them, and all those users I will add them to the developers group. And when I give permission, I would give permission to the group. Then automatically whichever people added to that group will get whatever permission I had given to
मध्ये
developers group. So it is more like
बंद करतो ट्रेनिंग मध्ये मी
Manoj, please mute yourself. Can you mute yourself? All right, so you can give permission to a group, then automatically whichever user part of that group will inherit the permission. So think about a situation: I have a team and I have a set of people who are added as a user.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, Musammil, I can hear you now.
Oh yeah, I was muted first of all, so I cannot
That's what
able
I
to.
thought.
Yes, sir. I was not able to connect with you.
But you are able to
Sir,
hear me, right?
yeah, I was able to hear you.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I will talk to
Sir,
you.
tomorrow.
Or
Okay,
ask some
okay,
questions
okay,
about
okay,
the topic.
okay,
Yeah, we will speak at the end.
okay.
There are few things I will tell you what you need to do. Right. Yeah, go ahead and mute yourself. Musamil, go ahead and mute yourself. We will speak at the end. Click on the mute button. Yeah, same button
Okay.
to mute yourself. Okay, thank you. Okay, right. So we will see. Now we will see how. So I have a set of people in my team. I want everyone to have access to a set of files. What I will do is, whichever file need permission, I would edit those permissions, and all the permission I will give to the group. Then I would simply add whichever people need all these permission, I would add them into the group. Automatically, whatever permission the group have got, the users will inherit those permissions. It's more like a better organized way. Otherwise I have to give all these permission to each and every user individually apart, right? Other than doing that, I can actually give all permission to a group. Whichever user people are there in my team, I can simply add them all into the team group, right? So now we will see how you can create a user, how you can create a group, how you can add a user to a group, right? And how you can delete user, how you can delete groups, all these things we will take a look. Okay, come on. So there's a command called user add. User add is the command you can use to create a user in Linux. Let's say I want to create a user called Lilith. Run the command user add space Lilith. It would create a user called Lilith in my system. How you verify the user is created? Actually, there is a file in Linux /etc/password passwd. This particular file will track all current users in Linux. If you open this file now, you would see a new entry came for Lilith user. So open the file. The last line says Lilith. It would also see some configuration information about the user Lilith. For example, his home folder, I told you, every user will get a home folder. Every user that you create, in case of Ubuntu is one user. For Ubuntu, this is the home folder. So like that, every user that you create will get a home folder, and by default, the home folder is going to be /home/ the username. In this case, it is Lilith. So there's a folder Lilith inside home. Home is inside /. So at this location, this is the home folder of Lilith. What it means is the user Lilith will have full permission on this folder. He can create new files inside this folder. He can create new folders. He can delete the files, delete the folder. Basically, he has full permission on this folder. That's what it means. And again, it can be customized. It's not a mandatory thing. Okay. This is how you can set permission. Create a user. And this file will track the user that got created. So once you added the user, you can look into this file to check whether the user entry got created. For Lilith, a entry got created here. And if you want to create a group, the command is group add. Group add space group name. Let's say developers. What this command will do is it will create a group called developers. And there is a file in Linux that track all the group. The file name is /etc/group. If you open the file and come down to the bottom, you can see an entry for developers here. You can see the name and it will get a unique ID. 1003 is the unique ID for developers group. It's called group ID. So the group is created. Now let's say I want to add the user Lilith to the group developers. The command is add user. Remember, it's not user add, it's add user. User add is the command which you have used to create a new user in your Linux operating system. Add user is a command I am going to use to add this user Lilith into the group developers. So basically, Lilith is an existing user in my Linux system. I already created him. Developers is a existing group in my Linux system. I already created that group. Now I am running the add user group to add this user to developers group. That's it. This command will actually add the user Lilith to developers group. And if you want to find out whichever groups Lilith is part of, the command is groups space Lilith. If you run this command, it would show you which groups Lilith is part of. One user can be added to multiple groups, right? So actually Lilith is part of, this is the user Lilith, and as per the command output, the first column is nothing but the username, that means Lilith user. He is part of two groups. First group is Lilith, second group is developers. Actually, Lilith is part of two groups. One group is Lilith, second group is developers. So, where does this particular group come from? I did not create a group called Lilith. Actually, it's mandatory that for any user that you create in Linux, they must be added to a group. You have the option when you run the user add command, you can actually specify to which group you want to add the user to. Let's say if you run this command, developers space, let's say Manoj. I'm going to run this command, Manoj. So what this command does is, it will create a user Manoj. It's a user add command. It will create the user Manoj. And using -g switch, you are mentioning which is the primary group of Manoj. If you run this command, the user Manoj will be created and his primary group will become developers. If you run the command group space Manoj, which will show you the primary group of Manoj is developers. But let's say if you do not provide this option, you did not mention the primary group when you created the user add command. For example, when I created the user Lilith, I simply ran user add space Lilith. I did not mention any primary group. In that case, what my Linux system does is, it would create a group with the same name as the username that will become the primary group of the user. That is the reason a group called Lilith also got created in my system. You got it, right? Now I open the etc group file. This is the file in my Linux machine that will contain all group information. Open this file, come to the below button, you can see a group called Lilith got created, but the group called Manoj is not created because you already mentioned Manoj is part of developers group. So like this you can mention the primary group of the user that you are adding. If you don't specify anything, the Linux system will create a group itself with the same name as the username, then add the user to that group. So it is mandatory that every user in Linux must have a primary group, one primary group and n secondary groups. There can be n number of secondary groups to which a user can be added to. For example, in case of Lilith, the primary group is Lilith. Developers is the secondary group. If I want Lilith to be added to more groups, I can again use the add user command, add user Lilith space admin. There's a group called admin. I want to add the user Lilith to the group admin. Then Lilith would be added to the admin group. Again, this is a secondary group. Then there is another group called sudo. In my Linux system, there's already one group called sudo. I want Lilith to be added to that group. I can again use the same command, add user Lilith space sudo. So I can add Lilith to any number of groups. Any user can be added to any number of secondary groups, and there will be one primary group which is mandatory. So if you run the command groups Lilith, now Lilith is part of many groups. Lilith is the primary group, sudo, admin, and developers are the secondary groups. So, got it, right? And if you want to delete a user, the command is userdel space the username. Let's say I want to delete the user called Manoj. I created a user Manoj. I want to delete the user. I can use this command, userdel space Manoj. If you look at /etc password now, there is no entry for Manoj now. The Manoj has been gone from etc password file. So userdel is the command that would delete the user from your Linux system. And if you want to set a password for the user, the command is passwd space the username. Let's say I want to set a password for Lilith. Run this command, PASSWD space Lilith. It will ask you to set a new password. I can set some password. So I am setting some password for Lilith. That's it. You need to enter it 2 times. Then the password is set for Lilith. So I created a user Lilith and set him a password, and I added him to a primary group. Primary group is not, sorry. I added Lilith to the primary group Lilith and these many secondary groups. The primary group is not something which I created manually. When I ran the user add command, automatically it created a group also with the same name as username. Right, so these are the different user operations that you could perform. And one more thing, actually, I will show you. So you can see, open the etc password file, you can see the home folder of Lilith is nothing but /home/Lilith. So under home Lilith. This is the home folder of Lilith. But this home folder is not created by default when you run the user add command. Right? Physically, the folder will not be created. Even though this is the home folder of Lilith, physically the home folder will not be present in the home folder. Let me go to /home. Type ls command, you can see. There is no folder called Lilith here. So user add command does not create the folder by default. If you want to create the folder, you can create it. You can create the folder name is Lilith. I can create the folder using mkdir. Then I can set permission for Lilith user to that particular folder. I can do it manually, that's fine. If you want user add to do this job for you, I mean create the home folder physically, then you can use a -m switch. User add -m space, you want to add the user. So let's say Pranitha. If I run this particular command, if I open the etc password file, I would see the same entries, right? There would be a new entry for Pranitha. A new user got created called Pranitha. This is the home folder of Pranitha. But this time, the home folder will be physically created because I used -m switch. Go to /home, type ls, you can see a folder called Pranitha. Okay, so -m switch, this is what -m switch would do if you use it along with along with the user add command. So user add command has different switch like this -m, -g that you already know now, right? If you want developers to be the primary group of the user that you are creating, then you can use -g space group name. Then that will become the primary group of the user that you are creating using your user add command.
Basil, quick question, Manoj here.
Yeah, Manoj.
So can we use the combination of user add -g developer and then -m?
-m, yes. There are many combinations. I will show you.
Okay.
We will just run the man command to show you what are the different options available. Run the command.
Can we use together?
We can use them together. Yes, we can use -m and -g together. Both will do the different things. I will show you what are the different options that you can use along. Run the command man space user add. It will show you different options. -d, if you want to, I told you by default the home folder of the user will be /home/username. If you want to change that, let's say you want the user to have a different path in his home folder, let's say /user/local/home or /mnt/home. So something like that, you want to specify a different folder for your user that you're creating, then you can use that with -d switch. -c you can use for adding some command. Then -b is for specifying the base directory in which folder the home folder will be created. That's what you can mention using -b switch, right? Like that -g that you have already seen. If you want the user to be added to a specific primary group, you can use -g switch. -G if you want to add user to n number of secondary groups. Along with the user add command, you want the user to be added to a number of secondary groups. Then you can specify the groups by using a -g switch. Then if you want the user to be -m is what? It will create the home folder physically. So there are different options, right? So I will run one command like this. I want to add a user called, let's say, Rakesh. User add. Manoj, can you mute yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like you need to mute me.
You have the mute button. Yeah, it's muted. Okay. So I'm running this command, user add -g developers -d /user local Rakesh -m -G admin comma sudo space Rakesh. So I want to create a user called Rakesh with all these settings. What these settings will do? -g, it will make developers as the primary group of Rakesh. -d will set this particular folder as the home folder of Rakesh other than /home. -m switch will create the home folder. That means this particular folder will be physically created. -G switch will add user Rakesh to the groups admin and sudo. So these many things I am doing at single shot. I'm setting a password for Rakesh. Yeah, so the user got created. If you open the etc password file, you can see the information about Rakesh. This is user Rakesh and his home folder is user local Rakesh, not home Rakesh, because that's what you mentioned in the user add command. Then I want to see, I used -m switch, right? So that means this folder should be physically created. So ls/user local, you can see there's a folder called Rakesh inside user local folder. Okay, great. Now I want to check the groups of Rakesh. The primary group should be developers, the secondary group should be admin and sudo. So total 3 groups, right? You can see 3 groups, developers being the primary group, sudo and admin being the secondary group. All right, so that's pretty much I wanted to discuss today. I think it's already 9:30. We will wind up here. The permissions we will cover tomorrow. Tomorrow we have class at 9 p.m. not 8 p.m. That means 1 hour late than our normal timing. From tomorrow our class timing is going to change. From tomorrow our class timing is going to be 9 p.m. instead of our regular 8 p.m. It would be permanently 9 p.m. from tomorrow. Tomorrow is Saturday in India. I mean, in Saturday you have classes at 9 p.m. IST. So those who are from US, it's morning for you. So connect tomorrow at 9 p.m. IST and we will start with some Linux administration topics.
Hello, Basil.
Yeah.
Yeah, from 9 to 10, right?
9 to 10:30.
10:30. Okay, okay.
It's
Okay.
1 hour.
9 to 10:30.
Hello, Basil sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Chicago and my class today was start at 8:30. So what will be the time tomorrow?
9:30.
9:30. Okay.
1 hour
And
late
one
than
okay,
today's time.
okay. One thing more, the company tell me that my class next class is on Monday. So tomorrow is my class or no?
Actually,
Because
tomorrow we
I'm in
have class. Generally the
yeah.
classes are Monday to Friday. Only this
Yes.
Saturday we have class.
Okay. 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 And it's a 1 hour class, right?
1.5.
Okay.
You are currently
Okay.
working?
Thank you. Sorry.
Are you working currently or
Uh, Currently, I'm doing some odd job in US.
okay?
Yeah.
The timing will work for you, right? That's what I want.
It will actually it will schedule it will disturb my schedule basically. That's why I'm asking.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So going forward, this is the time. So till the end of the training.
Yes,
Okay.
it would be 9 p.m. from tomorrow till the end of the training. The timing will be
Yeah,
9
so
p.m.
it will be 9 a.m. in the California, right? Pacific.
Pacific time.
7:30, I think. 7:30 probably. 1.5 hours difference, right? What is time there right now? 9:30, right?
Right now here it's
Yeah.
9:30. It's 1.5
So
hour,
I have 1.5 hour.
which means your timing would be 7:30. Yeah.
7:30. Yeah.
One thing more, Basil sir.
Yeah.
My class was 8:30 starting schedule. Right now, what was tomorrow will be 9:30.
Correct.
Okay.
Tomorrow will be 9:30.
Okay.
If it started
Okay.
at 8:30, tomorrow will be 9:30.
Okay. 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 Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And anybody, any questions?
Basil Lalit here.
Yeah.
So,
Hello.
Basil, this is Manoj. So basically, you